Hi guys, let's start with our next chapter, chapter number 17, which is congenital malformation and deformation and chromosomal. The code series starts with Q. The code series starts with Q. Whenever you have an abnormality from congenital or malformation or deformation or chromosomal, you need to code from the code series Q, which is chapter number 17. Before starting about this chapter, let me give a quick overview of it. We can assign this Q series as principal diagnosis, as well as we can assign this Q series as second listed diagnosis as well. It depends on the document, it depends on the present on admission, it purely depends on how the patient is coming, when the patient is coming, what is the reason for this admit matters a lot. Let's start with this. Is the smallest chapter, will be closing very soon, but please focus because this is also an important chapter. Whenever you're assigning secondary diagnosis codes, you need to have an knowledge when to assign what kind of codes, when to assign congenital, when to assign non-congenital, when to assign malformation, when to assign deformities, or when to assign chromosomal. You need to have a clear picture. Let's start. If a code identifies stating that congenital or deformity or deformation or chromosomal, don't assign additional code or additional manifestation code. Additional manifestation code. If a patient has congenital hydrocephalus, don't assign additionally hydrocephalus code, because that hydrocephalus, the code itself states that integral part of that code. Don't code again. This is a point number one you need to remember. Next, if that condition is not integral part of that, in that case you can code additionally in order to show or in order to give an information, yes, that condition is not integral part of that code, we can code additionally. Let's take an example of congenital hydrocephalus the patient has, and the patient also has some other condition which is related to kidney. Or let's take an example of polycystic kidney. Let's take a example of polycystic kidney, and the patient also has AKI. It doesn't mean that both are similar. In order to prove, in order to give an additional information, we can assign both the condition, which is polycystic kidney as well as AKI. Right? This is how you need to think. This is how you need to analyze the document, whether you need to go with congenital, or that means chapter 17, or other codes from other chapters. Next, when a patient is admitted to the hospital to treat the congenital condition, let's take patient has some renal dysphagia. Let's take patient has renal dysphagia. Now the patient is admitting to the hospital for that renal dysplasia, and some surgery or something has been done in that visit. You need to assign this Q series as PDX. You need to assign Q series as PDX, and you can assign Q series as SDX. The scenario is like this. If a patient is admitted with AKI and the patient also treated with sepsis, both the sepsis as well as AKI both were equally treated. Now my first listed diagnosis would be sepsis, and the patient also has some kind of lip cleft. Patient also has lip cleft. So you can assign that condition unless that condition was treated, that congenital condition was treated, or bring back to the original position or natural position, right? So whenever you see a documentation stating that congenital malformation or chromosomal, remember to code whether I need to go with Q series as first listed or Q series as second listed. First listed will be coding when the patient is admitting and having surgery, and rest we will be coding as secondary. And you might be having a question, in history patient has treated or corrected the malposition, corrected the congenital condition, how you need to code? In that case you can go with personal history of that particular condition. We have personal history of the particular condition, we can go with that conditions, not a problem. Next, if a patient has congenital condition and that patient is newborn. That patient is newborn. In this case, how you need to code? You can assign P series first followed by Q series, or the patient is purely coming for that congenital condition, assign Q series followed by P series. And for newborn, in this visit the patient gave birth. In that case, first assign Z38, which I have discussed in newborn chapter, stating that Z38 series followed by whether it's an vaginal or C-section. Then assign this Q series, because the reason for admission or the patient just now gave birth or just now born, we will be assigning Z38 followed by Q series. And this is a complete guideline and overview of this chapter 17. As I mentioned, this is the smallest chapter. Let me share a couple of congenital conditions and malformation conditions which we will be encountering in regular day-to-day scenarios, like as I mentioned, congenital hydrocephalus or Arnold-Chiari syndrome, or left clip or clip lift or lip cleft, or polycystic kidney, or renal dysphagia, or ectopic testitis or ectopic testis. Some malformations like AV malformation or larynx malformation, we have many other codes. This is how the code structure has been designed in this chapter to give or to assign an appropriate code series from G. See you in my next video. Until then, keep practicing.